Welcome to the Jeff Knows Inc. Entrepreneurial Show with your host, Jeff Lopes.
We are live on the Jeff Knows Inc. podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Lopes. We have a young man from Chicago, but seems to like Canada just as much, if not more. So I'm greatly appreciated for him to be on. Justin Breen reached out to me a few weeks ago, and we have a lot of common friends, a lot of commonality. Fatherhood is a big thing in both our lives. So I think it's going to be an incredible conversation. Justin is the owner of BrEpic. Get that right? BrEpic. And tons of layers, publications. There's tons of layers. We're going to talk about so many things today. So I'm super excited to have him on today. I always start off our podcast by letting the guests know what you're currently doing, what you're currently up to. And then we're going to let the conversation go and just have a fun conversation today. So what are you currently up to?
Yeah, we the North, Jeff. We the North. And, I'm like an honorary Canadian. Companies in the Canadian Chamber of Commerce. I used to cover the NHL. Talked to someone in every province in Canada except Yukon, Northwest Territories, Nunavut, and there's one other one, PEI. I haven't talked to anyone in PEI yet, but every other one I have. And so what am I up to today? So running a global company, my company, talking about my international best-selling book, Epic Business, and then my kids, my sons 8 and 6, had a snow day today, so I'm watching them, and they're doing some type of studying downstairs, and hopefully that's going very well.
Let's dive into it. There's one thing you said there I want to talk to right off the bat. You said you were involved with the NHL, National Hockey League. When was that, and what was that all about?
Yeah, so I was a sports editor. I graduated from University of Illinois in 1999 and was covering the Blackhawks and the NHL in the late 90s and early 2000s. And it's interesting because I do not have a lot of emotion, but when the Hawks won the Stanley Cup for the first time, or the first time in my lifetime in 2010, I was the sports editor at a newspaper near Chicago, and I was crying openly in the newsroom because I'm like, I never thought the Blackhawks would win a Stanley Cup in my lifetime, let alone 3. And, I'm guessing you're a Maple Leafs fan. I'm sorry about 1967. Or 66. It's one of those.
67.
Yeah. So it's, and then
our team is actually built our current team is built very similar to the Chicago teams of those Cup years. I mean, we're building a strong team. You guys had your Kane and Touts. I mean, you guys had some great chemistry there, so we'll see what happens.
I hope you're right because, I'm a White Sox fan. I don't usually talk about sports, but you asked. But,
yeah, this is going to be a fun conversation.
It's funny because, being a sports editor and covering it, it's like after a while, it's just like another game. But so I'm a White Sox fan. I never thought they'd win a World Series, and then I was really happy for my wife and when the Cubs won a World Series, because I never thought that happened. So I would like to see, a Canadian team win. I think 91 was the last time a Canadian team won. That was the Canadiens. I think that's right.
94, wasn't it?
I think it was it?
No, 94 was New York, so you're all right.
I'm pretty sure it was 91. Yeah.
94 was the Rangers, you're right, yeah.
Yeah, so
91, so Montreal, it would have been Montreal Canadiens.
Yeah, because that was the team where, we can do this all day if you want, where bring up bad Maple Leafs losses, where Gretzky beat him in Game 7 in Toronto. That shouldn't have happened, but it did. So, and then, so.
Let me get into this. So, where were you born and raised?
Yeah, so I was born at Highland Park Hospital, which is north of Chicago. I was raised in Northbrook, Illinois, and I live in Glenview, Illinois, which is literally 2 miles south on the same street of where I grew up.
Okay, so as an American, hockey is usually not your first love, I'm assuming, as a sport. So where would your passion of hockey come from? And where did you dive into hockey? Was that from your dad? Was that something?
Yeah, I'll tell you exactly what happened. So this is a really good question. In fact, this is one of the better questions anyone's ever asked me, because I think about this a lot. So my father died when I was 13. He was 61 when I was born. So he'd be 105 now if he was alive. And so I was kind of lost, in freshman, sophomore year of high school. And so the Blackhawks made the run to the Stanley Cup Finals that year, and then they lost to the Penguins. They got swept. But I was just searching for something to latch onto, and I was like, oh my God, here's this team that they were good but not great. And I just fell in love with the Blackhawks. I think I was just looking for something to fall in love with or to attach myself to, and it was hockey. And because here, if you remember, it was very famous or infamous. Blackhawks home games were not on TV.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah, yeah. And you guys
So
had you guys had the big, the horn. I remember those, like back in the day growing up.
Right.
I mean, you guys had, what was his name? That little goalie, Darren Pang, and
Hanger.
yeah, Panger. I mean, those are the days. Larmer, like you had some good players back in the day too, right? So
yeah, Doug Wilson, and so I was the 90. It was the 91 or 92 team that made it to the Cup Finals. Yeah, because my dad died in 91, right? And I take it back. The Canadians won in 93. So we were both wrong.
Yeah.
But so that team had Chelios and Roenick, and Belfour was the goalie.
Yeah.
So it was not a great team, but it was a really good team. And then they won 11 straight games in the playoffs. And so to get those games, you had to pay. It was called Hawk Vision.
Yeah.
So we had to pay like $30 a game to watch those games. It was on pay-per-view.
Yeah, those are some. It's so interesting how you attach memories to certain either pain or moments of your life, and they stick with you, and they're engraved in you. They become almost part of you, though, which is.
Well, it did. I mean, I became a sports ed. I mean, yeah, like I grew as a child. I would read the Chicago Tribune sports section with my dad when I was very little. And so that was just an extension of that, and then I made an entire career out of it, and here we are now. So.
Yeah. You were very young, and you were very young when you lost your dad too. How does that change your perspective as a dad now?
Everything. That's everything. That's what I mean. That's why I reached out to you, because I'm like, here's a guy who understands it. It's not. You're different than most entrepreneurs. Not most, but a lot of entrepreneurs will give up their family to grow a business. You will never be that person, and I'm never that person. The reason why I'm never that person is because I know what it's like to not have a dad around, and so I will never be that person that risks my family to grow a business. And my company's very profitable, very successful, but I'm not going to. I know a lot of billionaires and gajillionaires and very successful people. And again, you're the exception to this, or not the exception, but you're not this person. But I'll ask them, and then many times, I'll be like, "How's your family?" And many times I'll be like, "Oh, I never had a family, or never saw my family to work on my business." And you see the hurt, you hear the hurt. I'm just not. That's the answer to your question. I'll never be that person ever.
I love that, Justin, because I'm going to give you a little rundown where I started this podcast in March, and I never thought it would explode the way it did. We're getting like 25,000 downloads an episode. And when I started the podcast, the first few guests I had on the podcast were younger entrepreneurs. I would reach out to younger entrepreneurs, great social following, all this. And they all had this very similar story where it was the comeback. They had to prove their dad wrong. It was always this hate towards their dad. And I stood there and I'm like, no, I'm very successful. I've done really well for myself. And I come from a dad my dad was a blue collar. Believe me, he worked Ford Motors, worked 2 weeks day, 2 weeks night, 2 weeks a month. I went to see my dad, but God help, he never missed a time. Any inch he would spend with me, and I'm lucky to still have my parents around, and I appreciate them so much. And I spend as much time as I can with them, because I absolutely hate, and I say this on so many podcasts, I absolutely hate when I sit down with somebody and they say, "Oh, my dad's gone. I wish I spent more time with him."
Yeah, I'll never. No,
so you should have been spending time with them when they were alive. I appreciate that.
So I'll give you an answer.
Yeah.
And so the first line in my book, after the prologue, I'm 100% simplifier.
Yeah.
Blah 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 blah. Simplify it. So this is the 100% simplifier. If you are someone who believes that family shouldn't come first, please put the book down. I can't help you. So people are always like, "Oh, your company's doing so well. You're doing so successful. What do you care about? What are you working on next?" I go, "I'm spending time with my family." Wait. What big things do you work on? No. You're not listening. I'm spending time with my family.
I love that. So let's talk about your career, because obviously you're doing well for yourself.
Right. You
found a niche in something that you felt there was an issue or a problem with the publications. Let's dive into that. When did that start? How many years ago? And what triggered you to start researching that? Was that you trying to find publications for yourself? Like, how did that all start?
Man, that's a good question. This is a compliment. I want to make sure it comes off like that. I like talking to hosts that don't do a lot of background because they don't know the answer and they're so genuinely curious that they come up with really interesting questions. So that was a really good question. And so again, I'm 100% simplifier. I just hear all this stuff and simplify it into a pattern. My whole life is simplifying into patterns. So here's the very, very simple formula to creating a successful global company, right? Here it is. This is all it is. This is all here over and over. So you see a problem, you create solution to problem, problem solve, successful global company. I will say that again. You see a problem, create solution, problem solve, successful global company. That's it. That doesn't matter where you're located, doesn't matter what you're doing. Is like you said, you see something, you create solution, you solve it, successful global company. You execute on solving it. You don't just blah, blah, blah. You actually execute. You make the investment. So I was a journalist for 20 years. I created my entire business model based on how PR firms annoyed me for 20 years. I saw a problem, created solution, problem solved, successful global company. And we're doing this interview in February. 4 years ago in February 2017. I'll give you the timeline so you understand. So I was working full-time as a journalist. February 10th, 2017, 5-minute meeting with the company's managing editor and owner where they proceeded to cut my salary in half, not due to anything I had done wrong. That's what happens in journalism. So next couple of weeks I tried to find a full-time job, couldn't find a job. On April 16th, 2017, I incorporated my company, BrEpic, while I was working full-time at half the salary. Over the next 6 weeks, I reached out to 5,000 people to get my first 5 clients. So 1 out of 1,000 people said yes. You started your business in a basement or garage or whatever, entrepreneur life. So got my 5th client on June 1st, 2017. June 2nd, I resigned. And then Robert Feeder, he's the top media columnist in the Toronto of the South, Chicago. He did a story that I'd started my own firm on June 5th, 2017. So that's just to get the company started, and it's been a lot of fun ever since. A lot of ups and downs, but mostly fun.
So you're essentially with your PR company. Do you have employees, or are you doing a lot of majority on? You do. So you have.
Well, I don't technically have employees. I have freelance
virtual freelancers. Okay.
Yeah, I think the model that my company has there'll be less employees and more contract workers, or whatever the phrase you want to use.
Yeah. And you've been doing this now, so 2007. So a few years. So you're looking at 4 years, give or take. Mm-hmm. So in the process, when you first started this company, did you visualize or vision it to be at this success level this quickly? Because 4 years it's a quick run in 4 years.
Yeah, so I don't know if folks can see it, but I put my Colby score up there. For those who don't know what Colby is, in my opinion, I strongly feel this way, it's the top test for entrepreneurs in the world because it's not your personality, it's your brain strengths. So most entrepreneurs, not all, but most of them are high, quick start, boom, 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 and then they have little to no follow through. So they have to hire 1 million people, otherwise nothing would get done. So I'm the unicorn, oddball, anomaly. Who I have high, quick start, boom, 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 and high follow through. So I just say it, do it, say it, do it, say it, do it. So people like me, we're small giants. We don't do a lot of things. We're not all over the place, but at the things we do, we're at the very highest level. So because I'm so focused on my unique ability, doing what I like to do and what I'm good at, and only working with a certain type of person who looks at things as investments, not costs, and are visionaries and have abundance mindset, it essentially eliminates all noise and nonsense. That said, when I first started this, I didn't know what a W-2 was. I didn't know what a W-9 was. I still don't know what an S-Corp is. So I had no idea what I was doing. But now I'm just like, not only is this easy, it's fun, it's lucrative, and it's only the beginning. It'll just keep growing and growing. It'll never stop growing.
Do you venture in other ventures where like investments or real estate or anything like that?
No.
You don't, Tom?
No.
No interest in that?
Yeah, so less than zero interest. And so, again, most entrepreneurs are all over the place. They try to be everything for everyone. My company is one genius, high-level thing for one type of person. So it eliminates all that other stuff. So, also in Strategic Coach, Dan Sullivan, top, incredible entrepreneurial organization. And so I've learned endless things from that, but the number one thing is unique ability, doing what you like to do and what you're good at. And so my entire unique ability, 100% of my day when I'm not hanging out with my kids and my wife, is my unique ability. And that entire unique ability is the purpose of my life is to be a super connecting hero for every visionary, abundance, investment mindset entrepreneur and share their stories with the world. So that's not 99% of my day, that's 100% of my day. And it's endlessly fun, endlessly gratifying, endlessly lucrative, endlessly successful, because there's no limit to those type of people. No limit.
So essentially, to simplify it, your one aspect of your business, and you said simplify it, is essentially you're networking people together all day, in a way.
Yeah, that's incredibly simplistic, and I love it because essentially my brain is a CRM of geniuses. That's all it is. I don't write anything
Love
down.
it.
I can talk to someone in Canada, be like, I'm like, oh, I know someone in California that thinks like that. Connect them. A week later, they're like, how did you know how to do that? I go, I don't know. I have no idea.
I love it. I love it because I'll give you a little understanding. So when I started this podcast, Justin, there was two purposes behind the podcast. I've been entrepreneur for 25 years, done well for myself. No one
Right.
outside my realm or my circle knew who I was. So I said, I got to brand myself. So I took to social media and I thought the podcast would be a great outlet to brand myself with guests and dive into their network. So I started doing that venture. Through the whole process, I said, every single week, I want to do two things. I want to network myself with minimal 3 to 5 people, but I also want to network 2 groups together. So I'll say Justin and I'll introduce you to Tom. And the reason I'm doing that, because if you guys take off, become best friends, and this is my mindset, and I've been doing this for the last 8-9 months, is I'm always your anchoring point.
Yeah,
And
you're the bridge. You're just a bridge.
Exactly. And it's such an important aspect. So with everything you're doing now, when did you take pen to paper to write your book? When did the book come out?
Right. So thank you for asking that. So I have a PR firm. All my company is a giant incubator of geniuses around the world, and we're constantly introducing each other for mutual gain. So I have 5 to 10 conversations at this level every Monday through Friday. I never get tired of it. I never get bored, ever. And so there was no intent to write my book at all, ever. But on my company's 30-month anniversary, which was October 16th, 2019, I published a list of 30 things I had learned in the company's first 30 months from entrepreneurs. I mean, again, most of my day is talking to the top entrepreneurs in the world. So I had this list of 30 things that I actually did write down. When somebody says something profound, I write it down, but it's very rare. And so I published that list to my I think I had like 37,000 followers at the time. And so everybody's like, oh, you have to write a book, you have to write a book, you have to write a book. They were printing out the list. It was pre-COVID, so they're printing out the list and bringing it to meetings. You have to write a book. So I wrote a book. So signed with one of the top micro publishers in the United States. And wrote the book in 43 days. I mean, I'm a professional journalist. Writing books easy.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
Yeah, that's easy. So, and then Chris Voss, who wrote Never Split the Difference, did the foreword. So, like a lot of people write books and they're meaningless because there's no meaning. So if I do something, I don't do a lot of things, but if I do something, it has to be at the highest level. So Chris Voss did the foreword, and it's become a #1 international bestseller in 6 countries, and it's all it is a key. It's just open up endless doors to media opportunities, speaking engagements, validation. That's all it is. Like, I have no idea how many copies it's sold because that's meaningless. It's just a key to open up doors.
I love that. I love that. I love that you said that. So public speaking, is that something you dabble into now?
Yeah, because people constantly reach out to me because they're fascinated by my weird brain. Because I built this company for in 4 years with zero business. I had zero business background. Didn't know what an entrepreneur was, and a lot of multipliers who are all over the place. They're fascinated by my weird brain because I just simplify everything, and they're like, "Whoa, wait a minute! You spend as much time with your family as you want to, and your company's really profitable, and you only do what you like to do and what you're good at, and you only hang out with a certain type of person." Like, yeah. And so people, so people reach out about that. So that's just a byproduct, though. It's just like, that wasn't a direct, it's just a byproduct.
Where do you see the company going? Like we said this before, but where do you see it as a global company? Would you ever have a type of exit strategy on this, or this is something? No, just
No.
your baby and
No.
just flow with it, right?
Yeah, so that's interesting. I actually very rarely get the exit strategy question. How it will evolve is like my brain's a CRM, so technology to how do I say this, to systematize my brain, and we'll work on that. But the company's already global. I have clients around the world because all my company does is solve the problem. So it doesn't matter where you're located. It doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter how big the company is. That's all meaningless.
Yeah.
It's just my company solves the problem, and I only work with people that have visionary, abundance, investment mindset. So I'll say those again, because if you have these three attributes, you can only be one of two types of people. You can't be someone else. So if you're visionary, abundance, investment, you're one of two types of people. That is it. Here's the first. One, you're running a high six-figure US dollars, high six-figure to 10-figure business. You see your family whenever you want to. You do what you like to do, what you're good at. Or you're going to be one of those people. You're not there revenue-wise, but you will be because you have those three attributes in their mindset. So there's no what do you cost or charge. There's no nickel and diming. There's no scarcity. I see you nodding. So like it just eliminates all that. Yeah. And so those people with those three attributes, they just introduce me to more people like that, like you. You just connect. That's all I do is get connections all day.
Now, you said you don't invest. So when you're building these connections, like as a business, obviously you're helping companies grow and scale and whatnot, but with your connections, besides it's just generating more business. That's all you're doing is essentially using your connection to generate more business, right? Because we're not really diving into, and I know you like to simplify, but we're really not diving into the basics. If somebody's listening to this, I want them to understand a more detail of what the company offers. Does that make any sense?
Yep.
Because right now, we're talking a lot about networking. I understand the networking. I understand once you network, you're gonna use those clients as scaling and growing them and helping their business. Obviously, you deal with a higher level clientele than most people would deal with. Where if you're just networking something and you're selling your service, give a little breakdown and like you do, simplify what you will do with a company.
Sure. So it's interesting because I don't sell anything. I don't even talk about what my company does unless someone asks, but you asked, I'll tell you. So, and this is all on my company's website. There's no tricks. So, and I'll really land the plane here. People pay my company to produce very high-level newsworthy stories and then pitch those stories to media. My firm writes stories and pitches them to media. That's all it does, literally.
So your media, when you talk about media, can you give an example of high-level media? Is it like Inc. magazine, Entrepreneur magazine, higher those,
Yep.
those essentially those levels?
Oh yeah. But so that's interesting because this shows what I'm talking about. But so Forbes just did a giant article on me, not a pay-for-play, and Inc. magazine just published something I did. That's fine, but podcasts are actually replacing mainstream media in terms of relevance and importance for three main reasons. One, because I've done well over 100 podcast interviews since my book came out. And two, I'm a visionary. I see how things work. So here are the three reasons, because I simplify everything. One, the host is an entrepreneur, not a journalist, so they're coming from a place of abundance. Right? You're going to keep nodding because that's all I see. So they're not coming from a place of losing their job or getting their salary cut in half. They're coming from a place of, hey, I built a company and I spend as much time with my family as I want to, and I really want to learn. Big difference. Two, you can do a deep dive on someone, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour. It's not a 2-minute drive-by interview on TV or, a 5-10 minute drive-by interview on radio. So you get to know the person and you get to know the host. And then three, the audience might not be as large quantity-wise, but it's a far more qualified audience. For the most part, a normal person isn't going to listen to two visionary wackadoos talk about all this stuff, but a high-level visionary wackadoo will listen to it. And so it's all podcasts are a transactional and transformational platform for entrepreneurs. That's all they are. That's what they are.
I love that. Do you do or would you do your own podcast?
Yeah, so I get that question once a day. I probably will eventually. But right now, I don't want it to become a conflict of interest with my clients where I have to interview my firm's clients.
Yeah.
But eventually, I'm sure I will do that. And keep in mind, as a journalist, I interviewed over 10,000 people over 20 years. So all I do all day is talk to people like you. So doing more interviews. Let me dovetail that though. On Clubhouse, I have done.
I was going to ask you about that next. That was where I was going to go next.
Oh, I have some very strong opinions on Clubhouse.
So do I.
Right. I'd actually like to hear yours first.
Okay.
Um,
So
if you
finish what you're saying about Clubhouse.
Oh, well, yeah, that's what I mean. I just want to hear what
Okay.
you think about Clubhouse.
So I find Clubhouse, there's benefits and there's positive and negatives with it.
Right.
The negative is I find people are wasting way too much time on it.
Yeah, right. 100%.
Another negative is I feel like people are overutilizing it and it's going to kill the market. I think
Yep.
it's not going to.
Dude,
It's
we're
not
the same person, man.
okay.
Yeah.
But I do believe if you use it with intention, with an intended time, it's
Yeah.
beneficial. So I do, for example, 2 rooms myself
Right.
twice a week.
Perfect.
I do a Saturday morning entrepreneurial breakfast, 1 hour. Even if the room is packed at 1 hour, say bye everybody, see
See
everybody.
you later. Bye.
And then
Gone.
I do a Sunday night dad's talk.
Mm.
And it's brings a great group. Like this week, we talked about mental health with children and all that stuff. We have this great dad conversation, and we get like we had Sean Whalen, Bradley. We even have people jumping in and just can I talk? Can I talk too? So we're getting some big names jumping on wanting to talk, which is great. And it's just an open conversation. Same thing, 1 hour. Great guys. See you guys next week. And that one I should do it. I co-do that one with an incredible gentleman, Brian Ward, host of Dad's Up podcast. So we do that one together. Incredible person. So we've become really, really close friends, and we do that one together. And that's just to help dads. That's to help dads, give a platform for dads to talk and ask questions and all that. So I have attention. I come in, I do it twice a week, and that's it. And you will never see me on.
Why would you do that? Okay. So that was incredibly powerful what you just said because you're in the minority, but you get it at a higher level than most people. So would love to talk to Brian. That'd be an interesting conversation. And if I'm happy to
I'll
be a co-host or be on your panel whenever you want to do.
I love that. Yeah, 100%.
Maybe Sunday night would be better, but would love to do that. So I co-host one thing for 1 hour, and I can't tell you how many people I've talked to spend 8-10 hours a day on there. I go, what are you doing with your life? So when I do this 1 hour thing, I'm like, I'm leaving now. I'm either so I say one of two things. I go, one, if my kids are home, I'm like, hey, I'm now going to spend time with my children. Two, if my kids are at school, which they usually are, I'll be like, I have other things to do now. And so Clubhouse is great. I like it. But the problem with a lot of these things is they let everyone in, and all that does is dilute. It just dilutes. And there are 2 types of people on Clubhouse for the most part, because Simplify, right? So one, highest level people in the world like you who get it. They can provide endless content, endless help, endless like ideas, but then actually execute them, actually do something about it, and then they get the hell off the thing. And then there's people that are doing nothing. They're doing nothing, and that's fine. They're lonely or they're bored, and they're spending 10, 12 hours a day because they have nothing else to do, and that's fine. I'm glad that's there for them, but I don't have time for that. I don't have time for that, and that's why I spend 1 hour a week on it. And I strongly feel that Clubhouse, because they're letting everyone in, it's just going to dilute the product. And podcasts like these will not only remain powerful, but even more powerful because you're not diluting the content. It's us talking here. We're not inviting people who are going to dilute the content onto the call.
Yeah,
it doesn't get diluted.
No, that's exactly. I love that. And there's one positive thing I do realize with Clubhouse. When I first started, I would just jump in rooms and just listen. Even if I was invited on stage, I would not accept. I would just listen. And it does. There's a lot. The social media realm right now is so full of, pardon my language, bullshit.
100%.
There's so many. It's almost like a wheel, like a hamster wheel of a coach selling a marketing coach. It's just this wheel. Everybody's chasing each other's tail on social media, and everybody's an expert. And I sit there, Justin, and I look and I see these 21, 22, 23-year-olds that have never lived life, that have never experienced nothing, that have never accomplished nothing, and they're all experts.
Right.
And one thing is when these guys get on that platform and they start talking, you could quickly hear who knows their shit and who doesn't. So that's that. So it is calling a lot of the bullshit out, from a lot of these guys. So I appreciate that aspect of it. But it's just, I find there's a lot of even big names, and I don't want to name who they are, but there's guys that they're great businessmen that have a great following. And one of them, you'll probably figure it out. I'll say he's from the UK, huge social media following.
Okay.
And he's on there about 12, 15 hours a day. And he's doing it for his ego because he wants to be the first at a million. Like it's so guys are a lot of people are doing.
Does he have a family? Does he have a family?
Yes and no. When I mean yes, he does. Does he spend time with it? There's difference. There's a difference from having a family. I hear a lot of guys like, "Oh, I'm with my kids." And you're with your kid, but you're not present.
Right.
There's a difference from being with your kids and being present and putting the phone away. And I call it the 3 to 7. 3 to 7 o'clock every night. I'm with my kids. My phone's off, and that's my family time. And a lot of dads are never present. And that is the biggest problem, right? So they think they're there because they're sitting there watching TV. That's not being present. Like, I'll give you an example. Like yesterday, for example, we had a dance-off. We played cards. We played dominoes.
Right.
Present. Just be present. Have fun. Enjoy them. 90% of the time we spend with our kids, their stats that say it's before the age of 18. A lot of people don't appreciate or aware of that. And then there's moments in life when I could walk out that door just like your pops and something could happen and life changes in seconds. And I don't want my kids not to have memories. I'm trying to fill my kids with as many memories as I can with them. Knock on wood, something were to happen to me, at least they have that memory bank. They don't have presents. They have a memory bank full of great memories that they could go and tell their kids one day, this is what your grandpa did if I'm not around. So it's all about building memories. That's all I do with my kids is about building memories with them right now.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. So my dad died when I was 13.
Yeah.
So people ask me all the time, like, so what's number one thing, number one? So he always said the cream rises to the top, the cream rises to the top, the cream rises. So, okay, so I only work with the cream that's risen to the top or the people that want to rise to the top, and they'll do what it takes to do it. They won't make an excuse, they'll make the investment. So it eliminates everything that's not the cream that's rising to the top or the cream that's at the top. So two, let me dovetail it with what you just said. So I was 13. I got just enough of those memories for it to stick, just enough. My youngest brother was 10. He was 10 when my dad died. He literally tried to jump into the grave as my dad's grave was, or the casket was going down. He literally tried to jump in. He didn't jump in, but he tried. And so he never recovered. Never had enough, didn't get enough. And so he died when he was 29, I think. Yeah, so he'd be 40 now, died of a drug overdose. Whether it was accidental or on purpose, we don't know. But my point is that when you lose your dad and then you see what happens to someone when they don't have enough of their dad or their mom or someone important, then that's what I mean. So it's horrible what happened, but it also gave me a great gift because I know I'm not going to be that person. And so after this interview, I'm spending the rest of the day with my children. They're home right now downstairs doing whatever type of schoolwork. I'm just going to hang out with them. I'm going to be present. You've seen the videos that I post. I mean, we'll beat the crap out of each other. We'll do exercises. We'll throw footballs into the wall. Because I mean,
you're being authentic and you're real and you're enjoying quality time. That's quality time.
That's everything. That's the
look at me. I got to smile. Like when you mention your brother, I got literally goosebumps. And when you're mentioning this now, I got a smile on my face because that's me in a nutshell. It's just the quality, just enjoying. There's nothing more precious than my daughter's going through the little teeny 14-year-old teen stage and all that stuff. But my son is just we've been through so much, and we've gone through so many lessons together. That hard lessons, good lessons. I'll give you a little lesson, and I've told a few people this story. When he was 5 years old, the first day he was going to wear braces to school, and these are just lessons that lock. And the other day we were talking about this. He had to wear braces to school. First time, he's 5 years old, braces up to his knees, really struggling to walk with them. And he looked at me and he's like, "Dad," he goes, "I don't want to wear these." I'm like, "You have to wear these. You have to wear them 8 hours a day minimal." To get some benefit from this, stretch out your calves and all this stuff. And my wife's like, "Okay," his name's Tiago, and she goes, "Tiago, go put on a pair of pants or joggers over so you'll feel more comfortable." And he's like, "Okay, Mom." And I'm looking at him, I grabbed by his arm, and I did. It was tough love. And I said, "T, you're going to keep your shorts on. You're going to embrace who you are. You're going to love who you are. You're going to accept who you are. And if you're uncomfortable wearing these braces, you're going to do everything you effing can to get yourself out of these bracelets. And he looked at me and he starts crying and crying and went to school crying.
He was 5. Love it.
5. He got home that day, Justin. This is honest to truth. He got home that day and looked at me in the eyes and says, Dad, I want to do everything I can to get out of these braces. And that's when the journey began. And 7 years later, he's out of his braces. It took a long journey, but he dedicated himself. This kid is 12 years old, and I'll get home, Justin, and he's running on the treadmill by himself. Which 12-year-old does that? Like, he's understood how much fitness and health and flexibility is helping
to do it.
But he understands that, and most kids don't get that, so he has that. But to take that all apart, this kid does not realize how many lessons he's taught me.
Oh, it's the greatest gift, the greatest gift.
And the bare fact that he's just this sweet. Like, this kid will not, like, swear to God, I call him my little puppy. I come home and he's the first one running to the door to give me a hug and a kiss. He's like my puppy. I go to bed, I wake up. I was leaving today and they stayed home because it was snowing today, snow day. So for today, our lockdown officially ended here in Toronto. So they were supposed to start school today and they got a home day because of snow. And he comes and he's like, we said bye, hug, kiss, and I'm putting on my shoes, clean the car. I come back in and saying bye. And then hear him run. He's like, Dad, can I give you one more hug before you leave? Like, that's the type of kid he is. And I get goosebumps just thinking about him because he's such a sweet soul. And it's like everything I do, there's so much purpose to it because there's a reason he's here, and everything I want to do is just for him in a way. And I always tell you this is he's been through so much, and there's so many stories. I would tell you stories. I don't care who you are, you're going to get a tear in your eye. And why am I doing a lot of what I'm doing right now? Like I've started branding myself. I got my book coming out, the podcast. I already have 3 gigs to step on stage. I'm doing actually a virtual one next week, but to step on stage over the next year, I want to build a platform for myself. There's a reason I want to do that.
Right.
Because his story has to be told. And I want to be able to, when he's 17, 18, just transition into my shoes and I'll have a platform where he could just tell his story and he's going to impact millions of people with his story. And I know that already. So I'm just building this platform now to transition him eventually into it.
Yeah, so your son's going to be an amazing entrepreneur if he hasn't started doing that already, if he wants to be. My 8-year-old started his first business when he was 7. My 6-year-old wants to be a Navy SEAL. And
how do you feel about that? How do you feel about that?
I mean, my father was a World War II hero.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and a couple things. My father was 61 when I was born again, and so he fought in the Battle of the Hurtgen Forest, he was the first lieutenant, and he kept a diary. Of those experiences. I don't know how he did that because this was a very, very bloody battle. And this diary, I found it after he died. It's one of the greatest things ever written. I don't say that very lightly. It's incredible. And I write exactly like he does. Boom, 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 boom. Inform and entertain. So, inform and entertain.
Can I ask you a question? Have you ever thought of putting that into a book?
Yeah. So again, I literally get that question. I will eventually.
That'd be so special for your children even one day, right?
Yeah, so thank you for saying that. He died on January 18th, but his birthday was February 8th, so last week at the time of this recording. And so I bring it out every now and then. I read it, and I posted this on social media on February 7th, the day before his birthday. And this passage, so you asked like if my son became a Navy SEAL, right? Okay, because this is in his blood to do something like this. So my dad was a spotter. He was a spotter on, in this battle, going to plane or whatever. So him and a pilot. And so one of the passages that he was writing, they were in a field. It wasn't an airstrip. It was a field. And so they got these trucks. It was covered in snow. So these trucks went back and forth, back and forth, back and forth to mat down the snow so they could take off the plane. So they get in the plane without parachutes because that would have added extra weight. So him and the pilot got in the plane without parachutes. They got up 100 feet in the air, and the motor died. My dad's writing about this. The motor died, so they're probably going to die. The pilot found a little strip of land. It was 200 feet long by 50 feet wide. At the end of it was a stone barn, and so the pilot managed to land it, survived it. So I posted that passage on social media, and again, my dad died when I was 13, so I didn't know this, and I didn't see the diary until after he died. And so when I posted that, my mom's like, oh yeah, Dad had told me that he'd been shot down 9 times, in combat, and then had been in 2 near fatal car accidents, including the one where he met my mom, who was his nurse, and nursed him back to life. So that's in that's in my blood at the highest level to, like, you just get stuff done. You don't make excuses, and then that's definitely in my children's. They're very similar to your son. They will not make an excuse. They will get stuff done.
I love it.
Right.
Your son's, you said he started his own, started a little business when he was,
looming when he was 7.
7.
So it was a looming necklace. I think he made $60. Someone in Canada, one of my entrepreneur friends, actually bought something for one of my entrepreneur friends in Utah. So technically, he's made international sales. And so I'll give you another story. Maybe you'll hear this from your kids, but so when my son was 7, we were walking to school, and he's like, "Oh, Dad, I'm so bored with school." And I go, "Well, yeah, of course you're bored. You're being taught by people with zero, right?" Nodding. So, like, learn to read and write and all that stuff in math. And
yeah, this conversation all the time.
Right. So here, this might be a shared experience helpful. So I'm like, learn all that, and then I'll introduce you to all these other people. So I'm in Abundance 360, which, if you don't know, for those who don't know what it is, 99% are the folks are running $10 million to $10 billion companies. They're the people that are going to Mars, and they have the capital to do it. They're the people creating flying cars, and they have the capital to do it, and it's taking place. And so it's a big investment to be in that group, but it's a good investment. And so when we have those calls, my sons sit in my lap, and they watch it.
I love that. I love that. I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
We always have this conversation, and I have this all the time, and our educational system is so messed up. If they were to just spend even a little time in high school to teach, I say, sales, teach public speaking, and teach some form of entrepreneurial
collaboration.
Our children would be so much more ready for life. Yeah,
even again, my son's already bored with school, and so if you try, this is a Dan Sullivan strategic coach thing. I thought it was brilliant. And so he's like, yeah, if you try to talk to someone during a test for help, that's called cheating. And in real life, it's all, collaboration. So you're being taught to do everything yourself, which is complete nonsense. Because, like in terms of connecting people on a global level and getting people news at the very highest level, I'm one of the world-class geniuses at it. But I have no other skills. I'm useless besides that. Besides that, being a good dad. So I don't. Anything that I'm not good at or I don't like to do, I just collaborate with people on it and have them do it, or I just don't do it. Because why would you do something? But you're taught to do everything yourself, and if you don't do it well, then you get a bad grade on it. So that's ridiculous.
I've never thought of it that way with the testing and all that.
Right.
I love that. Because it makes so much sense, right?
Right.
You get into the real world, it's all about networking, collaborating. Doesn't matter what you are. If you want to be successful, you have to network and collaborate and grow off each other. So that's an interesting mindset.
Yep.
I'm going to ask you one question, which I ask, as you can see, I never have anything scripted. I brought in Tim Story on my podcast a couple of weeks. You know who Tim Story is?
Hmm?
I had him on my podcast a couple of weeks ago, and as we went on to the interview, he was like, that's one part of it. He actually said to me after we're done, he's like, "You didn't do any research on me. Like, you really didn't know who I was." I go, "I knew who you were, but I didn't know any detail." And I find it so much fun learning about stuff. Like I got a smile on my face half this interview because I really didn't know nothing about you, and now I feel
I love it.
And it just makes it interesting conversation. It makes it fun. And it's just, I love it. I love doing it like this. I enjoy it. Right?
Me too.
I just have one question I ask everybody at the end, and eventually I'll take these and make it into a clip because I have over 100 now. But if something were to happen to you today, in a few words, how would you want to be described by your loved ones?
That I was a good dad. That's it.
Love it. You're the first person to say that.
Yeah, so I have because all this other crap doesn't matter. That's what I mean. Shared experience too. So I've interviewed over 10,000 people, and I never come prepared with any question ever. I will look up certain things because, but the only thing there are two things I almost always ask. Almost always. One is, what did your parents do? Because then I can understand someone's brain. And then the last question I always ask someone, always, is there something else you'd like to add, something I'm missing, something you think that would be good for this story? And many times the thing that they say is actually the lead of the story, because I'd never ask it. hadn't asked you yet.
I love it. I love it. This has been a terrific conversation. I'm getting excited to see how much we can network and work together in the future, because I think there's a lot of things we could probably help each other with. And I'm going to introduce you when we're done. I'm going to introduce you to a shout out to my friend Brian, because I think you add a lot of value to his podcast.
Brian with a Y. Brian with a Y.
And so you obviously know who he is. I appreciate you, and I appreciate you taking time to doing this. This is and go enjoy your family the rest of your day. And like I said, I appreciate it. Anything you want to end off with?
Yeah, go Maple Leafs, and I'm hoping. This is the year.
What about the Blue Jays? They have a good young team.
No. Blue Jays beat the White Sox in the ALCS one year, and I'm still mad about that. So
they have a really strong team this year, man. They're spending the money on the free agents, and they have all the young talents. It's going to be Toronto sports are fun. Toronto sports are fun now. I mean, the Raptors did well. Now it's time for the hockey and baseball to try to kick in a bit, hopefully.
So Toronto is, I'll simplify one more thing. Toronto and Chicago are the exact same city except for two things. One, Toronto is horizontal against the lake, Chicago is vertical. Two, Toronto has more Chinatowns, Chicago has more crime. Other than that, they're the exact same city.
Yeah, I was in Chicago a few years. I'm thinking maybe about 7-8 years ago. I was there for a UFC event because we were sponsoring the headliners, and the weigh-ins were it was downtown Chicago. It was an old theater, old theater, and we were in the basement where the weigh-ins. It was like this historical building, a theater. And so we were there, and I spent almost a week there in Chicago. And exactly. Besides your subways being above ground, ours are underground. Everything else is very, very similar. Yeah.
Toronto's like a tremendous, just a tremendous city. Tremendous, world class, awesome, very clean.
Yeah,
just a wonderful city.
I love it. I appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much for doing this.
See you, buddy.